You know, for so many of us, being single can feel, well, kind of like you're in a waiting room, right? Like it's this temporary phase you're just supposed to get through before your real life can finally begin. But what if our entire culture has the story of singleness completely wrong? And that leads to this huge question that just kind of hangs over everything. Is being single a problem that needs to be fixed? I mean, you feel it, don't you? Whether it's pressure from family, from society, or even just that voice in your own head, the message is often the same. Being single means you're incomplete, that it's a problem to be solved. But is it, really? To really challenge that whole assumption, we're going to dive into Sam Allberry's book, 7 Myths About Singleness. And his argument is pretty bold and definitely countercultural. He basically says that many of our deepest beliefs about being single are just flat out wrong. He argues that from a biblical perspective, it's not a problem at all. In fact, he sees it as a powerful and positive gift. So to really get a grip on this perspective, we have to start with the basics. We've got to define our terms, because how we define singleness changes absolutely everything about this conversation. And this right here lays out the fundamental conflict. Our culture, a lot of the time, defines singleness as freedom for casual sex. But the book's framework is coming from a completely different place. It defines it as being unmarried and committed to sexual abstinence, or celibacy. And it is so important to understand this difference because without it, the rest of the argument just won't make sense. Okay, so with that definition in mind, let's tackle the first big myth the book confronts. And it's a huge one. The idea that a celibate, single life is just too hard to ever be a happy one. Allberry points out how movies like The 40-Year-Old Virgin build their entire premise on the idea that long-term celibacy is, well, laughable. The underlying message is that to be truly human, to be a complete person, you must be having sex. A life without it is seen as repressed, unhealthy, or even damaging. But the book offers this fascinating counterpoint. It highlights a moment where Jesus describes marriage as such a high, demanding commitment that his own followers react with total shock. Their conclusion? Maybe it's actually better not to marry at all. Suddenly, singleness started to look like the easier option. And this just brilliantly illustrates that grass is always greener problem, doesn't it? The book argues that single people so often compare their lowest moments with this idealized, picture-perfect version of marriage. But the reality is that both ways of life have their own distinct challenges and their own distinct joys. Neither one is the easy option. Allberry also points to this quote from the Apostle Paul. Now, the point isn't that marriage is bad, not at all. It's that it comes with its own specific set of worldly troubles that single people are simply spared from. The book is just being realistic that neither path is free of challenges. But singleness, well, it also has some pretty unique freedoms. So if both have their challenges, what is the unique upside of singleness? This is where the book shifts from just debunking myths to building a really positive vision. It's not just about avoiding trouble, it's about embracing a unique kind of freedom. And this is the book's central, and maybe its most powerful argument. Jesus, who Christians believe is the absolute model for perfect humanity, lived his entire life single and celibate. This demonstrates from this perspective that marriage and sex are not essential to having a full, complete, and deeply meaningful human experience. So what is this freedom for? Allberry focuses on this idea of undivided devotion. He argues that married people are and should be rightly concerned with pleasing their spouse. A single person, though, has a unique availability, a less complex life that lets them serve God and others with a different kind of focus. It's not a lack of connection, but a strategic advantage for a different kind of purpose. So what's the final takeaway here? It all comes down to a radical shift in perspective. From seeing singleness for what it lacks, to seeing it for what it uniquely offers. And that's the bottom line. Singleness isn't a waiting room for real life to begin. It's not a backup plan. From this perspective, it is a valuable and purposeful calling, complete with its own unique mission and its own opportunities. So we'll leave you with this final question to think about. In a culture that so often defines our worth by our relationship status, what would it look like to find our deepest meaning completely outside of that box? That's a question worth asking, no matter who you are. Subscribe to the Book Breakdown for more powerful book summaries that can change the way you think.